I know you all have heard about what went down in McCurtain County, Oklahoma, during this meeting with the city council, the sheriff, and a few other people. And what they talked about, how they looked at black people as people that can be lynched, put in the mud hole, beaten, burned. It's amazing that things have not changed. They fight against critical race theory, but one thing holds true is that if you don't or you forget history, it is doomed to repeat itself. And that's what's going on. I mean, that part of the country, Oklahoma, those people in that city council meeting, the sheriff and the commissioner and all this kind of stuff, they are just typical of that part of the country. I mean, I will say it. They are typical. And I'm very upset about it. But then again, I'm not. I come from North Carolina, wherein there was a line drawn. I mean, a white person would come to me and say, look, I don't like you. And I say, I don't like you either. It's the same thing. The governor of Oklahoma has requested that the people in this meeting that was a hot mic moment resign. You had a commissioner, city council member, you had a sheriff, all right, and only one has resigned so far. And what about this guy that was shot 45 times? And he was running. What about the emotional disturbed guy? He was having an emotional episode. He had a pair of scissors and a knife, and he was shot. So I don't know what is going on in this country, but I can tell you one thing. All politics is local, and we have to do something about that. We have to focus on electing people that represent us. So with that said, we're going to rebroadcast an episode entitled All Politics is Local, meaning you got to vote for city council, you got to vote for sheriff, you got to vote for your board of education. I mean, you got to vote wherever there's a necessity to vote. You have to vote. We have to vote. We have to stay engaged, especially locally, the DA, the district attorney. We have to vote, folks. That's our only recourse. Because as I said, you can't keep your head buried in the sand because it's going to get you. And it's getting us. So stay tuned for an episode that we broadcast in 2021 where we talk about all politics is local. That we have to vote locally and nationally. One other thing, you can run but you can't hide, folks. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Friday Live at the Walt Weekly Podcast. I am your host, Walter Latham, along with your co-host, Michelle Sweeney McCombs, and of course, our panel of thought leaders that shed light on questions impacting our community every day. Before we proceed, we have some great news about some upcoming events, as I just mentioned, along with Michelle, in the coming weeks. So stay tuned. And we're going to mention those at the end of the show. And as usual, please follow, like, and share. Today's episode is titled, Want to Stem the Tide of Injustice? Vote local. So many deaths of black men that we have seen, and the majority are unseen or covered up. We never see them. All right? From Andrew Brown to Ronald Green. We must use every tool we have to fight against these barbaric acts that are being committed around the country every day. We must vote from the bottom up. So our mindset has to change. There has to be a paradigm shift in the way we think. And I've been told this by the panel members, by guests, but I'm one of the first to blame, because some of the representatives that I have in my area, I don't even know who they are and what they do. So I got to educate myself. But I'm going to try my best to make sure that my listeners get a head start and start to think local to national. All right. So we must vote from the bottom up. And this will not be the end all be all to our problems, but it will represent a concrete step forward. In addition, we must hold those in office now accountable. All right. They have to, if they're in office now and they supposedly represent us, we have to hold them accountable. So if they don't, in the next election, when that term comes around, they may be off, they may not be the midterm election, they may not be the presidential election, but we got election in New York next month.
Right.
Yeah, so they reiterate, galvanizing for the national vote is great. Everybody coming together and getting that vote out. We got to do the same thing on the local level. We now need to include town, county, and state elections. Even if you got somebody on the block that's running for block captain, he got to be elected. You got to get involved with that. As with Breonna Taylor and Ronald Green, and recently the death of Andrew Brown, and especially with Andrew Brown, where the prosecutor just came out and said, look, we're not moving forward with a case. All right. And you're not seeing the daggone cam, the video from the cams that these guys wear. So he just told us, F you. We're not bringing any case against these people. Mm-hmm. All right. So these people are elected officials. All right. These are the ones that can reach out and touch you. All right. This is from elections for city council, board of education, sheriff, judges, prosecutors. All of these people are elected in some way or form. Right. So we just got to identify who are the people being elected and how do they impact us? Because 95% of the time they impact you. Look at Flint, Michigan with the water situation. Mm-hmm. All right. Look at these failed attempts of cover up of them killing our black folks. So there's a saying, all politics is local. It's true. It's true. I'm a believer, firm believer that it's true. All right. So that's why today's show is how do we stem the tide of injustice? We vote local. It may not correct everything, but it's gonna help. So with that said, let me turn it over to Michelle.
Awesome. Yeah, this is going to be a hot topic. Walter, thank you for that. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Walt Weekly Friday Live. Thank you to our live audience guests for joining us. Please follow the Walt Weekly and share this podcast by clicking the share button at the bottom right. Today's Friday Live is sponsored by Beauty Blends by Ami, Soap and Love, and Michelle Sweeney here. Our intro and outro music is provided by Uncle Nephew. Today's panel, as always, our weekly panel, returning panel, is Greg Coleman out of North Carolina, COO of Illumination Media and Technology and Engineer at the Walt Weekly. Next panel, we have the Honorable Gene Anthony Edwards, Male District Leader out of the 79th District, Bronx, New York. Next panelist, we have Christopher Sweeney out of New Jersey, retired sanitation worker and CEO of Johnny Roof's Catering. Last but not least, we have Mr. Ernest J. Robinson out of Washington, D.C., Sergeant, U.S. Marine Corps combat veteran, senior consultant at B. Ernest Leadership and Professional Consultant. I will put everyone's social media and websites information in the chat room. Back to you, Walter.
Okay, Michelle, thank you. All right. I want to start by asking y'all guys, what is the best way? How do you see motivating folks to get out and vote in local elections? What will it take? All right. And anybody can field that question, whoever's ready.
Go ahead, Michelle.
You have so many people that are out there for Black Lives Matter, marching, only when something happens. They should take that energy, that same energy, when it's time to vote for your local offices and districts. They should take that same energy that they go out and protest every time one of us is killed. They should take that same energy and go and vote, not just for the presidential election, but the local districts as well. So if they want to walk the walk, they have to talk the talk as well.
There you go.
Be
Yeah,
involved in every aspect, not just to march when one of us gets killed.
I
And
agree.
I think even to add on to what Michelle was saying is that during those marches, a lot of times we will have the statistics of how many were killed or what the details of the case were. Oh, we need to have the details of legislation that would match up with whatever it is that we're trying to prevent or stop. The reasons why voting is important, how many people voted in the last election, how many people didn't vote, and what were the results of those who are in office. Like, we should keep statistics of how many, not just how many times an elected official voted on something, but what they did or did not vote on. And I think
Right.
that if you find the pain point of the constituency, is a one way of being able to connect them to the importance of voting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I want to
Well,
piggy.
I can say that I've never been as determined as I was by Breonna Taylor and recently Ronald Green, and then with Brown, Alexander Brown out of Elizabeth City. That, I mean, it just dawned on me. I mean, y'all guys have been saying this, Ernest, especially. You've been saying this, with the local election and policy and things of that nature. We had a guest on last week, TC was on, and he was talking about, the local, that we got to think local, all right? Because these are the people, like I said, that can lay hands on you, all right? So I was lax, but now I see, yeah. So now I'm seeing, and we have to be able to try to convey to our listeners the importance of doing this. Maybe we could, do something on the website where we just list who's an elected office, not who, but generally saying, we say, well, in this state they got sheriff elections or judges or etc. Maybe we can do something on the website to help people. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I was thinking. I think
Definitely.
that's what we should do.
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
I also think the messaging has to be clear, and we just had a brother make history in Boston. He won the first black mayor. So things are happening. We need to get that message out that people are making strides and taking, making inroads in some of these places. Like Boston is notoriously racist,
Mm-hmm.
right? A racist
Oh yeah,
city.
yeah, definitely.
So for that to happen there is fantastic. And we also need to stay on messaging. I know not everybody watches the news. A lot of people don't believe, don't trust it. But just like with this DA not bringing charges against these officers and not even showing the camera,
Right.
the footage, look at what Congress is doing and the Senate. They're just totally trying to wash away the insurrection. So it's happening at every level. And we need to remind people of these things, that this is happening. They are totally pushing this under the rug, saying, oh, they were just a bunch of, upset white folk and tourists, and they had a right to be there and tear
Yeah, I
the
liked
place
when
up.
he said. I like when he said,
Tourists.
these was just tourists, like
Right.
any other day.
That's
These are just tourists.
that's the
Not domestic terrorists.
ridiculousness that they feel that they can get away with now, just because we sat through 4 years of being told
Right.
anything, no matter how outrageous it was, and they got away with it. There were really no ramifications for it. I mean, other than actually losing the election, but even that, was
Mm-hmm.
they feel that they can say anything and there's no price to pay. But one of the things, in your original question, Walt, is what do we have to do? Not what can we do, but what we have to do. And
Mm-hmm.
and what I always go back to a sense of awareness and a consciousness towards who we are and where we are and what's going on around us in every community. There has to be some engagement. We get, as a community, and I'm talking all of us, some way or another, the community as a whole gets distracted by things. They can, whatever the latest thing is. And I think, social media and reality TV distracts us. We forget about what's really going on in our communities. We got to overcome a lot of things that are going on in our community for people to get active to the point where they can group together and take some people out in local elections to start forming a different consciousness of the police department. If those folks in the police department know they could get kicked up out of there because the people are consciously getting together and voting them folks
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be people friendly instead of police friendly, then some music will start changing and they're going to have to dance to something else. But
Right.
we have to increase our awareness and our consciousness. And every time us as a people start to do that, the media, the mainstream throws something else to distract us away from
Mm-hmm.
mobilizing and getting together and forming unity. We get, music that talks about, anti-snitching and this, that, and the
Mm-hmm.
other. Well, we don't look after our own neighborhoods. We can't mobilize. We have to mobilize. And I know it
You have to
seems
be
like the same old
consistent too.
story, but we have
Mm-hmm.
to do it. We got to be consistent because you see what happened in Elizabeth City, you see what happened in Louisiana, and this is going to continue to happen if we don't get together and get these folks out of there.
Right.
I think another part of the of voting local is that you should also run local. That
Hmm.
means that those who are running for office should come from your community. I mean, you should be
Right.
looking for somebody within your household that's within your family, because those individuals are supposed to represent your best interests. It's like at a family reunion. Like you can't make every family reunion, right? But you send
Mm-hmm.
somebody to represent the family.
Right.
And essentially, your elected official should be your family that's there to represent your needs. So I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be talking about what it is I want to do. I should be able to sit there and say, no, my district, this is the things that they want. And I can show proof because I take surveys, I've done
Mm-hmm.
town halls or whatever. But we need to encourage, motivate, mold, empower, whatever we need to do from within, so that way those who are on the ballot, we know them.
Right.
I agree.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Those
All
are
right.
great
So
points. Great points.
what I'm thinking is, Ernest, just as a continuation of what you just said, it takes money to run for office. You got people that
Yes,
are
it
from
does.
outside the neighborhood. They come in and they got all this money behind them.
Mm-hmm.
How do we mount a defense or offset something like that?
There's nothing more powerful than word of mouth. It doesn't matter how much money you actually have. The money that it takes to win an election is the buildings and the flyers and everything else. But if you actually mobilize as many people that come out to these Million Man marches, and you had Million Man door knocking every single day or every other week, and you were sitting there and everybody was singing the same tune, singing the same songs about how good this candidate is or series of candidates or whatever, you don't need as much money. You don't. I mean, yeah, it takes it. You got to pay to play, so to speak. So I'm not, not naive, but you know, I think we need to do more of having serious candidates, not just somebody from the block, but serious candidates,
Right.
and we need to support them from the very beginning to get that word out and be consistent in that messaging. So I
You are
mean, it's
correct
all the
about
same.
that. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead,
You're
go ahead.
correct. You're correct because I was going to say my brother is running for councilman in his district in Bed-Stuy, and he personally went door to door to get himself on the ballot. And in his area, he's been doing things year round. So, once he got on the ballot, he didn't have any money. So, he's begging
Right.
everybody right now for money because he needs money for his campaign, brochures, to advertise this, that, and the other. Whatever he needs to do,
Hmm.
it costs money. But he did get on the ballot because he made it his business to go out there and get those signatures. So, yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
Hmm.
We also have to look at it like Stacey Abrams. They didn't have a lot of money. They mobilized. They got out there
Right.
and they had the right message. They
Hmm.
were able to talk to the people where the people understood them and they had something to offer. The problem
Right.
that's going on in politics right now, these people have nothing to offer. That's why they're going around trying to change all these laws and stop people from voting instead of being creative and coming
Hmm.
up with some fresh ideas. They don't have that ability. And that's part of the problem.
They're not local. That's why.
Yeah.
Kelly Loeffler was born into money. Josh Hawley is not even. I don't even think he's even from Missouri. I know that currently right now he lives in Virginia, and granted, most U.S. Senate lives somewhere close to D.C. But his address, he used someone else's address, like his father's-in-law address, in order for him to even run for office. A lot of a lot of people are what they call carpetbaggers who go around from city to city, and then run in that area. So they're
But they're
not from the
also
area.
running off
Go
a
ahead.
message that was 4 years of Trump, and they piggyback that.
True.
It's not just
Yeah,
them
absolutely.
carpetbagging. They're seizing on the opportunity that there are people out there that love this guy, and they're
Hmm.
aligning themselves with him, and they're no longer trying to come up with solutions to anything. They're just combative.
Hmm.
People want to see a fight. They want to see all the ugliness, and that's all they care about. Whereas
Right.
Stacey Abrams and the rest of those folks, especially in Atlanta, they had a message and they went to the people. They got out there
Hmm.
grassroots. They
Hmm.
helped people people that came out of prison, all kinds of things. They focused
Right.
on the right groups of people. And that's what we need to do in every state.
I think Chris, you
Yes.
hit it right on the head when you said that these people, their message was going straight to the people. They made the appeal to the people. They had their finger on the pulse of what the people wanted, and that kind of offset their lack of money because
Hmm.
they were very strategic and effective at targeting what the needs of the community was, and that's, to me, that's the pattern that needs to be set everywhere instead of
That
ignoring
threw
us and
that threw
lying.
Trump and them off. That threw them off
Definitely.
guard. They didn't expect all those people to come out there like that. They came and they waited on long lines all day
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
voted.
Yeah, but look, they're
Yeah.
trying to blame, absentee voting and this, whatever measures were put in place to ensure people got to
Hmm.
vote during COVID. And actually, I think in Maricopa County, down in Arizona, they're calling for an audit of the Arizona vote. They're saying that the machines.
They've already done it.
Mm.
Yeah, but you got
Yeah,
to remember, Maricopa has long time been a bastion of racism. So
Hmm.
they got a track record of that. So you got to be
A-
careful of that.
And
You
they
got
can
to be wary of
and
that.
they can use all of the tricks they want. People know what they saw. You could say all you want about absentee voting. I'm not going to deny that there were a lot of people that voted that way and people mailed in their ballots, but I saw a lot of people. I saw long lines with my own eyes. Those people were out there. So they could try to minimize all they want the people that came out. They came out in force and they waited.
Well,
But I
okay.
mean, that's
one
their only
the
strategy. That's the only way they can delegitimize what happened is, to minimize it. Because, like you say, Chris, we all saw what happened. So to sit here and tell us, it was red when it's actually blue is a joke. But that's the only fallback, like you said, because they have no other message. They
well
can't
the
come
thing
with
is
anything else.
Well, the thing is, a lot of those voting laws were actually in place prior to COVID. I think there was 20 plus states and many localities that primarily do absentee voting, just because of the rural nature it was already in place. Some of them became the rules changed a little bit, yes, because of COVID, but a lot of it had already pre-existed. And what it also did was it did influence a lot of people who typically were lazy and would not come out and vote, who did vote. So yeah, yes, it did increase, but there's nothing nefarious about the fact that it increased and it actually worked. What I think that we need to be mindful of is making sure that we have people to being able to protect those current laws and making sure that there's not the efforts for suppression don't go through, because that's all they're doing is just looking for different ways of being able to do that, and that also plays a part into gerrymandering and a number of the different ways that they try to suppress the vote. So we have to have people on the ground being able to be mindful of that as well.
Okay. And though one thing that we do need, though, guys, is that for voters to be informed. Not just vote for a person because they're black or brown. All right. You need to know, about this person, what he represents, what policies he supports. And we put that other criterion in is that they must come from the neighborhood. Okay. So those are like the criteria that we're going to look at. All right. And I think that people should, but they should be educated as to who this person is that they're voting for. That's a key ingredient that we have to have. They have to know who they're voting for. So what do y'all guys think about that? Do you agree? I know you agree, but
yeah, I think that's instrumental. I think that's instrumental. I mean, you got to have somebody, and again, we can't be tricked. Generationally, we've been tricked by just a friendly face, just because it was a black face. That's not always the solution. We know and we see that there are many of them that ain't for us or about us. And
Tim Scott, excuse me.
Yeah. yeah. He's just the most one of the most visible examples of that. And we gotta, but we also gotta determine what we about, what we for, and what we against. And we can't let somebody come in there and smile and cheese and act like he's for us, and he really isn't. So we gotta be informed. We gotta stay informed. We cannot let our guard down. We absolutely cannot let our guard down. And one of the things I was concerned about after Obama was elected, that we just all gonna sit around and celebrate and be happy that we had a black president, and then we were in for it after that. So we can't let our guard down, relax. We got to continue to push the bar as to what we want for our community. We got to stay informed. And for those that are not going to stay informed, there's a percentage of us that have to keep them informed. We got to keep setting the narrative and can't let them. We got so many vehicles now. It's not up to the nightly news like it used to be to set the narrative. We can help do that.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
We also have to have people that when we do put them in office, like Tish James in New York, I get constant updates in my emails of the things and the actions she's taking on a daily basis. She's keeping the people who voted for her, who followed her, who got her in that seat. She's keeping us abreast and updated on what she's doing. And that's part of the problem. People need to see exactly what that job entails. And she's opening a door to it to let people understand what her power is and what she's doing. And that's also important. We can't get you there and then you forget about us. Keep us in the loop. And that's what I think that's a page people need to take out of her book.
Yeah, that's a segue, Chris. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a segue into the next part of this question is, how do we hold them accountable? What measures, what metrics do we use to say, okay, this person is doing the job versus this person is not doing the job?
I think that to that question is that we have to change our mindset of how we looked at those that we put into office. We're the employers. As a voter, you are the ones who give this person the job, the opportunity to being able to work for the community.
Right.
So they're there to serve. Yeah. So as those who are their own owners or who have staff that work for them, we have to be able to tell them, hey, this is what I want you to do, and this is when I need you to check in, or whatever type of supervision that you may have. And that's the way we need to look at it. So then, therefore, the metrics become: did you meet the standard that we set? So that does go in more in line with the fact that we have to become more educated about what that actually is, so we know what we're doing, and so that we know what they're supposed to be doing. Because when they mess up, if we don't know the job, we can't even tell them to mess up.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's what we have to do, and I think that without that, then it's just a waste of time. If we cannot see anything measurable in terms of getting policies through and things of that nature, then it's just a waste of time. We have to follow up to make sure. We voted for you. What have you done for me lately? What have you done for me in the past? What are you doing for me lately? And what are you working on now for the future?
And what you gonna do for me?
So there's three things there that we have to look at.
Right, but then also too, what are we doing for? How are we best supporting them? Because if you, as an employer, you should be there as a guide, as a mentor. This again, it's a working relationship. So, am I giving you the tools that you need to be successful in this position? We have to be able to look at that too and be critical of whether or not our community being supportive of their efforts. If they're sitting there trying to clean up crime, are we doing our best to police within ourselves of our own communities? Are we making sure that we're cooperating with the police officers that are sent there? Obviously that are doing their job. You see what I'm saying? So it goes into where we just can't put it all on those that are elected, because are we doing our job as well?
Walter, this is Gene. Did you hear me?
Now I hear you, Gene.
Okay, what I said, I'm sorry, I guess Ernest was talking at the time, but I was standing here talking to Jamani, and he agreed to be on the show. So I have to reach out to his campaign manager, and we're going to get one of those Fridays in early June, in either the first week or the second week of June. We're going to have him on the show, the Public Advocate of New York City.
All right. I've been looking forward to that, Michelle. I tell you that we've been looking forward to having Jamani on the show. Awesome. Yeah, you guys out there. We have Gene with us, and he's one of our panelists. He's one of our guys. He's out on the campaign trail today with Jamani, and they're campaigning. That's why you're getting that back. You hear that wind blowing out there. They out there walking. All right, because we got elections coming up next month in New York. So yes, he's our guy on the scene. Just like the 6 o'clock news, we got a man on the ground. All right, that's reporting in from the ground. Awesome. All right, the Honorable Gene Edwards. Yes, thank you, Gene. Thank you. Anything else you got to report right now, or were you going to just check in periodically? All right. All right, Gene.
He'll come in when he needs to.
Yeah. He's busy now, trying to getting them boats out.
No, I've been listening to the whole show. I've been listening to the whole show. Awesome. I heard Ernest talking about campaigning and stuff like that, like laughing, like I'm actually doing exactly what he said we need to do right now. handing out literature, walking around with Jamani. I'm literally doing that right now.
Excellent. Right. Excellent. Right. Yep. Don't just, you got to walk the walk, people. You got to walk the walk. And that's what Gene is doing. He's walking the walk, not just talking. He's walking the walk. Okay.
I also think we need to support the media out there that is doing the work and doing the job. Because if it were not for the media leaking that video in Louisiana, we wouldn't know about it. They would have brushed that under the rug. So media is not bad. The media that is good for us, we need to support that media, and get behind those people as well, because they're exposing a lot of people. They're not willingly giving this video up. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Nah, that was a reporter
they're
that just worked
hiding.
on
Yeah.
that thing for a couple of years. All right, I don't know, but he was with the Wall Street. No, what was he? Was it the Washington
I
Post?
think
I'm not
Associated
sure the
Press. I
newspaper.
think it was
It
Associated
was
AP.
Press.
AP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's precisely why a main staple of the Republican power base was to attack the media and discredit the media for the last 5 years. If you delegitimize the media, and then when these stories come out, they can, sweep them under the rug, act like they're, not relevant or insignificant. But you gotta have the media doing what they do. And yes, you got to have discernment. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. But like you said, Chris, it ain't all bad. You just got to be able to read and see what is legitimate and what's not. Because we would have been in the dark without that report.
Very true. Very, very true. And I don't know, and I know that Chris didn't see that body cam footage. All right, I know I saw it, but my wife was watching Rachel Maddow. That's her show. She watches every night. But anyway, she came to me and said, "Look at this," and I looked and I saw this video, and I tell you, it's the most painful thing. I'm talking the Ronald Green murder lynching. All right, there was no
Yeah.
rope, but he was lynched.
Yeah.
In Louisiana. Okay. And how he begged and cried and even said to those cops, "I am your brother. Why are you doing this?
And
I
they
am
were
your
laughing.
brother." They were
They were
laughing, beating
laughing.
them. They got blood all over them. They said,
Yep.
"I'm going to get rid of this blood." What kind of human being does that?
A savage.
What?
Yeah.
I
Evil.
mean, I was shook. I woke up this morning thinking about it. That's why. I changed the title of this show about maybe 4 or 5 times because I was so angry. All right, and then I try to just I look for solutions or ways towards change. All right, and I think that's what this show is about. So voting local would vote. The local vote have it changed that situation. I don't know, but it took the prosecutor, the judges, the police department. Do you know what it took to cover this up from 2019 to now?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
All the way up. All the way up the ladder. And I was angry too, Walt. And you know what calmed me down? His
What's
mother.
that?
His mother.
Mm.
She was so calm and so focused and so, she's hurting, you could tell, but she's not getting emotional to the point where she's losing sight of getting justice for her son. And that's what calmed me down. Watching her, listening to how she spoke. She was so well put together. She's an inspiration.
So the thing is, as we oftentimes reflect on, I think to your question, would voting local have prevented that situation? Maybe in some cases, and maybe it would have, but that's where it gets back to the consistency part, because we can't just vote local just because it's convenient or just because we're enraged or just because we're in we needed to be doing this for years and for decades, because again, all those DAs and all those sheriffs and all those judges and even down to the magistrate at the local jails, positions that we haven't fulfilled, that we scoff at, in a lot of ways, the injustices that happen within our communities when you don't vote, in many ways, you're complicit. You're silenced. The fact that it's like a professional way of not snitching when you don't vote, when you don't let your voice be heard about the injustices that are happening. What could you have done to have prevented that from taking place? You could have voted. You could have been more involved.
Right.
We could have been talking about police reform and changes. And had somebody that was in office to being able to help make that happen. And that's where the importance come in at when it comes down to when we do change our minds, that we do have to become more consistent, develop the discipline. We're not going to be perfect. We may miss something or whatever the case may be, but we don't make excuses about it. We just get back on the ball and make sure you make the next election. Make sure you vote on every single thing, and then start educating yourself, educating your family, having conversations about what they could do, even in your specialty. I mean, in whatever you do hair, you do shows, you do whatever it is that you do. What could you do that could contribute to helping someone get elected or changing policies that you disagree with within your community?
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree. The sooner the better. But I'm gonna go Hawaii 5 on you for that real quick. Amen, amen, brother. I did say that, amen, brother. From McGarrett. They said, that I saw that in reruns, guys. I wasn't. I was too young when it was on TV.
I was getting ready to say, Walt, you took it back there, man.
Yeah, amen, brother. Yeah. But you're absolutely right, Ernest. You're absolutely right. I mean, it represents a paradigm shift in our way of thinking or a mindset that we need to have. I've always looked at things globally, all right, nationally and globally. I never thought locally, maybe because I, was out with traveling, whatever. But I'm turning my attention to local. I am turning my attention to local, but I'm not giving up on national and global. But I'm gonna put my focus because that's where I'm weak. I'm weak in the knowledge of my local politicians, the knowledge of them and what they do and what they represent. Okay. And I think that's what everybody has to do. Take a step back and then move forward. Get some knowledge.
Absolutely.
All right? Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm going to go on to this next question I have. And we talked about it. But, I mean, the nerve of this prosecutor in Elizabeth City refusing to bring a case and stating that the officers acted to defend themselves. So why not show the body cam that supports his statement?
Right.
They won't show that. They won't even show the parents that.
Because there is nothing to support his statement. That's why.
That's right. Why this can't die. We can't. I mean, I'm speechless. I am speechless. If he's so, I mean, it's just like the Republican that's saying that the insurrection. These guys are just tourists. So I guess it's the same thing. He's looking at a different reality, even though it's staring him straight in the face. I don't get it.
I mean, that's a nice way to put it. Go ahead, Ernest. All right. I was saying that's a nice way to put it, that he's lying and they're lying. And that's what they do. For this guy to come out and say, the guy that was trying to barricade the door says that this was just a walk, a tourist walk. Because he's lying. And we could dress it up all we want to. They're lying and they're being deceitful. And that's what we have to act against. The people in Elizabeth City, they're covering up. We have to call it exactly what it is. They're holding back. And if the system is in place for them to be able to withhold this body cam footage, well, that system needs to be torn down.
Changed.
That needs to be torn down. And they want to, you're talking about defunding the police and no. No, I'm not specifically talking about defunding the police, but if it takes that to break that system down, then so be it. But then we got to build it back up. Don't play on our words. Don't, try to put a different spin on it. We got to be very specific about what we want and how we're going to get it. And we are not, in North Carolina, we are not going to allow this to go away. We're not.
The thing is that, I'm never surprised by it when it happens. And that's only because of all the historical case laws that have been done, and you can go back to Emmett Till. And that case went to trial. You can go to when Medgar Evers was assassinated, and that went to trial. You can go back to when the Freedom Riders with the two Jewish kids, young men and the black man, and found them. And the judges saying that, well, the agitators came down, and this is the reason why this is happening. So they'll it's been done for decades. It's
Decades.
been done for decades
Hmm.
to just say whatever it is that they want to say, because we are not in a position to being able to hold them accountable. I mean,
Right.
even for the simple fact that, I mean, why we don't hold the judges. We get the police officers, but we don't
Right.
hold the chief accountable for it. They still retire and still got their money. We don't hold the
Yeah.
judges accountable for making these decisions. We don't get the
Hmm.
DA. We don't put the DA in jail for them lying. There's all these protections that are
Right.
out
They
there,
protect
but
the
it's been
higher
happening for
ups.
decades.
Just like Trump,
And
they
so
hold
we,
them accountable for
hmm
anything. So, it just trickles down.
Look at the guy,
We
Well, I'll tell
don't
you
have
one
the
thing.
the
power to hold them accountable.
the police
The only
officer that
power
killed
that
that
we
guy.
have,
Go ahead, Chris.
now I was just going to say, the only power that we hold really is through our funds. And we have to make, the one thing they love in this country is money. And they'll
That's
respect
for
that.
sure.
And when we start taking our money and doing what we
Hmm.
need to do with it and leaving these places and not going, it may hurt a lot of people, but you're going to get the message across.
Right.
We're
Especially
not
that we're the
coming to your
biggest
town.
consumer. Hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look at the
but we
guy,
don't have the
the police
discipline for that.
officer that killed
That's
Rashard
true,
Brooks in
Ernest.
Atlanta got reinstated to the force.
Mm.
There's no way we can.
Wow.
There's no way we can allow that. But they can do it and not care about the ramifications. But I say that, but I think they're going to take care of that in Atlanta. I'm confident that they'll do what they need to do to make sure that's
Hmm.
taken care of, because that's ridiculous.
We shall
Well, I
But
see.
know
Jane,
it was one state, I think it
Yeah,
was
go ahead,
North
Ernest.
Carolina.
no, it's Jane.
Who was the state? No, matter of fact, Georgia is paying for it. I don't know who was talking about the power of the dollar and boycotting, but the state of Georgia is paying because weren't they supposed to host the Major League Baseball All Star game? And
Mm-hmm.
Major
Yeah.
League
Yup.
Baseball said, "Nah, we
Right.
ain't. Nah. You guys want to suppress the voters and stuff, so we're not going to, host
Right.
the All Star weekend there." Yo, they're gonna lose like hundreds of millions of dollars, off of tourism and everything else with that All Star game, you know.
Right.
So,
That's what
and
they
And
got
then
to
more
do.
needs to happen.
Hmm.
Well, the thing is that the money. If that's what we have in the toolkit and that's what we can leverage, then we have to leverage that. There has to be a way that we can come together, coalesce, and say, okay, we're not going to do this. Because from my understanding, we're consumers. We spend over a trillion or more dollars a year. All right, so that's got to rank up there with at least the 10th country in the world in terms of GDP and what we spend. So we got some power. We got some power with the pocketbook. All right. So we got to leverage that. That's in the toolkit. We got to bring it
We
out.
have
As
power,
I
but we
said,
don't
the
have the
vote,
discipline.
that's in the toolkit. Knowledge
Yeah,
is
but
in
we
the
don't have the
toolkit.
discipline.
That's
We don't
right,
have the
Bishop.
Listen,
discipline.
we have never in this movement to find equality in this country we've never had corporate companies, the corporate entity backing some of these things the way they are now. And we need to tap into that. These companies are saying, we're not doing business with you because you're not treating the people right. Sure, they have incentive. They have skin in the game, but we need to leverage that and piggyback it and force more companies to bend and come that way and say, hey, enough is enough. Because when they start losing enough, they haven't lost enough money yet. That's the problem.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
When they start losing enough, they'll switch.
Because I think some
I
of these
wanted
folks think
Yeah.
it's going
to.
to blow
Definitely.
over and they can go back
It's
to
Right.
not.
normal. But we
Right.
can't
That's what
let
they're
it.
expecting.
We can't.
Hmm.
I've been saying
Hold
this for
on.
years. It's not. I've been
Yeah,
around a
they
long
probably.
time, so I know
Mhm.
it hasn't blown over, and it's not going to blow over until we address it.
Right. 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 Right.
Walter,
I
I
think
wanted I
because they
wanted
just
to
had that
highlight.
case with Floyd, and they're probably like they already got one, so we don't have to show this footage. Even with the Brown case, the I think it's the prosecutor or whoever it is works in the same building as the sheriff department. They're all friends, so they're basically covering for each other. So how do you get around that? Like, I mean, it's just a well-known fact that they're covering for each other. So what do you do about it?
I wanted to highlight something that you had said, Walter, and I know Chris has touched on the buying power. Right now, as African Americans, we have about a $1.3 trillion in buying power. There are 211 countries that have metrics on their GDP, and African Americans in the United States would rank 17th. Actually, take that back. We would rank 15th, tied with Mexico, as a people in this country on our buying power.
Mm-hmm.
So that in itself, and maybe like I know a lot of people who are listening may not necessarily understand what that actually means, but the entire gross domestic product for a country was 1.3 trillion, and that's our buying power. But we don't use it in a way to be able to be influential. Now we're more than just consumers. We are supposed to be leaders, but I think that we need to really take into account of where we actually really are and how we're going to get there. But I just wanted to highlight that point that Walter had brought up.
That's true. I mean, even in the
Yeah,
hair
thanks.
industry, that's $1 billion industry. In my industry, we support the Asians. They have the products. We spend the money, and we have no discipline. So if you could take that 15% that we are, and we take our monies, buy properties, buy buildings, start a Black Wall Street, we would be incredible people. But we don't
Yeah,
have the
yeah.
discipline.
It's
Well,
how
that's
I
the
don't.
thing.
I don't
That
believe
sounds
I don't believe that we do have the discipline. People repeat those things, and I'm not attacking anybody here. We
Yeah.
do have the discipline, and but we have a messaging problem. Again, we need to share information, get the word out, speak to it. Shows like this help. We get these things, use the tools that we have, social media, all of these things. The word is getting out. And trust me, we are making a dent in what's happening because these folks are losing their minds. They're going crazy. They attacked the Capitol in this country. You have white men. This is a white men majority led movement who are now playing victims because they don't know how to react to the change that's coming. But it is coming. It
Well,
is
they didn't know how to
coming, and we
react when
are
slavery was
making
over. Their minds are still in that era.
they
Like they.
we are making a dent, and it's showing because they are losing control. They don't have control over those people. They've let this guy wind these people up, and now they don't know what to do with them. Instead of trying to calm them down or tamp them back, they just said, hey, we just got to get behind them and join them because they can't even control them. They can't control them. And you know what? We are making a dent, and we got to keep pushing, never give up, and stop saying that we can't do or we're not disciplined because we are, because they would have wiped us out already if we weren't disciplined.
the only problem I have with that is I think integration really killed the Black Power movement because what integration did was it really gave rise to the house Negro. You know, you look at a guy like Stephen A. Smith, right? He goes on there, and lately he's been bashing Kwame Brown. Anybody who watches the NBA knows that he was the number one pick in the draft by the Washington Wizards when Michael Jordan was like part owner and player, and he had a less than stellar career. And they're calling him a bust and things like that. and they're using these big platforms like ESPN and Fox Sports One with Shannon Sharp, and they bashing the brother. So I just happened to go onto his YouTube channel just to hear his side, and he said something rather profound. He said, you got all these house niggas, that are grown men, middle aged men bashing me. I thought he was 18. He was only 17 when he came in the league. He said I was a 17-year-old child, and I had a player mentor that I thought like Michael Jordan, who treated me like, talked to me like I was a veteran player and talked down to me and just robbed me of my confidence. And I never was the same. I never was the same. And once I heard his perspective, I'm like, damn. When my son was 17, I was talking, even though we live in different states, I was talking to him every day because that's the age where they could either do dumb shit and end up in jail, or they could do dumb shit and become a teenage pregnancy. That's the age when you really have to be a father more than ever. So, and I'm saying all this to say that, as long as they keep the house nigga well paid, like the Stephen A. Smiths and the Shannon Sharp, they have such a big platform, Ernest and Chris. They can sway the tide with their, daily shows, on the radio and on television. Like,
I
who's going to
agree.
listen to us? Who's going to listen to
Shannon
us?
Sharp actually Shannon Sharp actually backed up Kwame Brown. He sided with Kwame Brown.
Okay, good. He finally, yeah, good. At least he did
I'm
that.
not going. I'm not going to totally get into this right now, but because I got a different opinion than Gene, but I do understand the point you're making, Gene, when you say they use the platforms, and we got to be better at using our platforms. I also agree with Chris, and even though by habit sometimes we like to infer that we don't have the ability to or we can't. You are correct in saying that we can. And there have been differences made just because of us pushing back and not going for certain things. We've changed the culture of a lot of major
Yes.
corporations. We've changed the culture, and we
Yes.
got to keep doing that. We can't let up off the gas because especially in this time where everybody was hit by, the nation was hit by COVID, a lot of these companies started to realize we need that black money coming in. We can't afford to lose that money. So we got to be a little more conscious of what's going on, and we got to have our ear to what all of our customers want, not just some of them.
We can't,
And
and we
we got
have
to
to
flex
stop
that
being so
political muscle.
negative. Right,
That's
we're
true.
too negative
That's true.
about ourselves.
About
Like
ourselves.
we can't be disciplined. We can't. Yes, we can. If you keep saying that, then we won't be. We gotta speak things into existence.
Well, I'm definitely all for that.
I was looking
Speak and
at
do.
the
You got to
chat,
speak and do.
and I saw something that I think is something that is viable, something that we should do if we can. I don't know what strings or levers we have to pull, but I think we should go back and look at cases wherein, during arrest, a black person or a person of color was killed and it was never prosecuted. Nothing came around with it. I think there should be a review of those cases. I think we need to look back, all right, at all those cases.
No, they
And
do.
examine them. Now that would take a lot of money, but I'm sure that through this platform we could probably get some lawyers, or we can approach some lawyers. There's a legal. I think they work with people on death row, but maybe, just maybe, I'm throwing this out there, you guys, but that they can start looking at some of the old cases. Go back and look at these cases and look at the evidence and just reopen them if necessary. Because I think that we are only looking at just what's above the water, but what's under. There's got to be a lot more to this than meets the eye and what we know.
I think
So
that's a good
Absolutely.
point. Look at what happened, and Walter. I've been talking about this for a few weeks. Is that case? What was going on in Philadelphia with the DA Larry Krasner and the former DA? He got in 4 years ago based on the fact that he campaigned for the the mistrust of the police, against the mistrust of the police department. He overturned, he saw all kind of improprieties, false evidence, framing people, sending people to jail for life for crimes they already had the evidence that they didn't have anything to do with, but nobody wanted to overturn it. He got elected. He kicked half of those dirty cops, dirty DAs out of there, and
Yep.
last year they decided they can't run against him, like the pro police candidate, and he beat them the other day. So
Yeah, he
that
beat
just
him
lets you
down.
know that the people wanted that, weren't having that nonsense, and this
Yeah,
is
they doing that
happening.
work in Philly.
That's right. That's right. And to me, that's the model. That's what we all should be striving for, because he went in and dug up some old cases and saw that the evidence wasn't for the black man. And that's also what the Innocence Project is doing. They're getting legal teams together, going over old cases, and if it's flimsy, they're turning it out. And we got to get behind efforts like that. They shouldn't be the only efforts, but we need to get behind efforts like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I said, I said, no, I'm talking to the other panelists. Look where it's happening. It's happening in the Northeast Corridor. You're talking about New York City. You
Hmm.
got, DAs like Cy Vance and Darcel Clark in the Bronx, and the Latino brother in Brooklyn. They overturn a lot of cases, and they expunge a lot of stuff. And Philadelphia. Yeah, that is happening there too. But what about those states where black people don't produce as much money as Ernest or Greg was talking about? Our gross national product. Places like South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama. Those states where black folks don't have as much say. Those red states. You know, how do we get justice for people like that? Because we know what
That's
we could
why.
do in the Northeast.
Yeah, we got to
That's
keep
why
doing what
people
we're
need
doing
to.
now, though, to bring it to their
Yeah,
attention.
and people need to know that Boston has a black mayor. St. Louis just got a black mayor. Alabama got a black mayor. They're making strides in these places, and that's what's angering these people. They're watching people that don't look like them, that they don't like, now starting to take office, take positions, and that's the beginning. Those are the small steps that got to be taken. And we need to highlight that. We need to get that message out that there are people in Alabama that are out there fighting, that are in this struggle, and they're running for office, and they're starting to make some, get some headway in these places.
I happen to know, again, firsthand, Greensboro, black police chief. Guilford County, where Greensboro is located, black sheriff. Same thing with Mecklenburg County, where Charlotte's located. Black police chief, black sheriff. But not just black police chief and black sheriff. Black people that are fed up with, number one, the way cops are operating and the way they're being portrayed, and they're verbally have committed to changing it. So they're open to ideas, open to suggestions, but as a people, we have to uplift them at the ballot box. So we can't just say make the changes, make the changes, make the changes, and when it's time for, the judicial branch to get in it, they can undermine all those changes. We got to put the pressure on them to let them be able to make the changes that we want them to make. And we do that at the ballot box.
There you go. And we do it locally and statewide and nationally, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the mindset that we got to have going forward. Okay. All right. So anyway, I do want to turn to where we are now, and I do want to touch base with Gene to see how Gene did. I know he just spoke, but Gene, how's it going out there? Our remote reporter, on the ground reporter, campaigning. How's it
What's
going?
up?
Could you give us some insight? And how's it going?
Oh yeah, we wrapped up before I jumped on and started talking. Uh, about the topics. I'm actually upstairs now because everybody's home from work by now. But it was looking good. It was good. It was looking good. A lot of positive feedback. And It's looking really good. It's looking really good.
Okay.
That's all I
All
can
right.
say.
Good. 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 All right, guys. So anyway, we're pushing up against the clock a little bit. So I do want to tell those that have just joined or joining for the first time, that we are a family. This is a platform that guys can come on and hear the truth, and not just hear the truth. We're going to explain it to you, and then you can go out and do your own research. And you just don't have to listen to us, but we want to shed light on it. We want to bring you to action, basically. Okay. So with that said, I'm gonna go back to the panel for some last thoughts that they may have, and I'm gonna start with Ernest.
No, I mean, one, this was a much needed topic, but I just hope that, that people really kind of adhere to, what everyone has said. That there's a lot that has to happen. So we have to learn how to walk and chew gum at the same time, so to speak. Um, but when, like I said, when it does come down to, come down to those who sit there and say that they don't want to vote or that their vote doesn't count, no, your vote absolutely counts. And every time that there's a death, and every time that there's a cover up, and every time that there's something that's happening that's adverse to the very communities that you live in, it's a result of us all not voting. And for those who are too young to vote, encourage someone who was old enough to vote. And for everyone who's old enough to vote, it is, if you got a younger sister, brother, cousin, niece, nephew, and you want to do the very best for them and protect them, go and vote.
Okay. All right. Truth.
Hey, I just want to say,
coming back in.
sometimes I could get a little excited when we're talking about having these discussions on these topics. I just want people to recognize when other people are uncomfortable, that means you're doing something. You're moving the needle. And we have to continue pushing, moving the needle, getting people out to vote, getting people to understand what they're voting for and why they need to do certain things. Understand tax code, understand finance, understand all of these things as a whole, because you are making a difference. When you get out there, I keep going back to Georgia. Georgia is just a perfect example of people doing the work and getting results.
Great. Yep, that was absolutely nice. Thank you, Chris. And Greg, any parting words?
Yeah, I just think, like we were talking about, we have to intensify our effort. We have to be strategic. We have to be very strategic about, who we're going to back, how we're going to back them, and the actions we're going to take. I know myself, I got to stop, dilly-dallying.
Yeah, you went out, Greg. All right, people in the audience, we are doing this virtually. This is a virtual show that we do. People are scattered all throughout the East Coast, up and down. So we're going to run into these problems. So excuse us for that. Okay. So anyway, before I turn it over to Michelle, I am doing a blog on the website, which is www.thewaltweekly.com. I want y'all guys to visit our website. It's coming along pretty good. And just did an updated blog yesterday where we talk about some of the issues that we're talking about today. But it's an opinion piece, so you take what you want from it. I always call reading stuff like that, sifting for gold, throw out what you don't need and keep what you need. Okay. And with that said, Michelle's going to tell you about upcoming. Yeah.
I don't
Forget about Eugene.
I don't get parting shots.
You definitely get parting shots, my friend.
Okay.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Well, I just want people to pay attention to what's going on in the news. And I had a wise man say something to me recently. He said, "Don't just pay attention to the news. Pay attention to the commercials because the commercials, those are the people that sponsor these news programs that come on, even the major networks. You know,
Right.
so you pretty much know where they're getting their money from. So we know where to boycott. If we don't
Mhm.
like what's being like how our imagery is being presented, we know to boycott Ford. We know to boycott Coke or whatever. So pay attention to the commercials, not just the news, but pay attention to the commercials. Also, we spend a lot of time on the show talking about police misconduct and prosecutorial misconduct, but we got to pay attention to our own conduct. Um, and what I'm saying is that uh, Nancy Pelosi this week uh, had a vote to form a special commission, to investigate the January 6th siege on Capitol Hill. And, the Senate is fighting it. Now, while that
Mhm.
was going on, and a lot of Democrats, and others were getting, excited about what took place in the House of Representatives, uh, the United States Attorney General Merrick Garland formed a special task force to go after scammers with those PPP loans. Now,
Mhm.
I'm not saying that other ethnicities and nationalities aren't scammers, but we know a lot of black folks took advantage of those PPP loans.
Right.
So, on one hand, they're saying, hey, we're going to investigate, the police in Minnesota and the killing of Breonna Taylor in Louisville. But at the same time, they have a special task force. We're going to lock your black asses off that exhibit bad behavior. So at the
Mhm.
same time, while we're checking other people, we got to check our own people. Don't be out here
Mhm.
scamming and doing dumb shit and putting yourself in a position where you could end up jail and then try to, use the narrative, white man got his foot on my neck. No, you stole that money. And
Mm.
that's it.
That was great. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Okay. All right, Michelle. And what we got coming down the line? Matter of fact.
Mark your calendars, everybody. We have coming up for next month. I know I'm jumping ahead. Juneteenth celebration on June 16th. It will be on a Wednesday at 6 p.m. We will be doing a live Zoom celebrating Juneteenth. And also on Friday Live, June 18th, that will be our 100th episode
All right.
show,
All
which is
right.
amazing. So we'll try to have some amazing guests on there. We will also have Gene follow up for early June for the public figure that we spoke about earlier. So I'm looking forward to a great month of June. And to our audience, if you ever feel like there's a topic that you would like us to discuss, you can go to our website, www.thewaltweekly.com, and make suggestions. We appreciate everybody that's on here, that comes on here every Friday night. I know it's Friday, everything's starting to open up. We appreciate everybody's loyalty every week. So if there's a topic that you'd like us to discuss, please let us know about it.
All right.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
that's it for our upcoming shows. We do have some shows coming in the works. We're just waiting on confirmation. So I'm looking forward to that. So thank you to our sponsors, Beauty Blends by Ami, Soap and Love, Michelle Sweeney here. Our weekly panel members, Chris, Ernest, Greg, and Jean. Thank you guys for spending the evening with us, early evening part. You can follow us at thewaltweekly.com, IG and Facebook, The Walt Weekly, Twitter, Walt Weekly, Podbean, The Walt Weekly, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and other streaming platforms. You can find us, The Walt Weekly. We appreciate everyone. Thank you. Make sure you follow us so you will get our updates every week when we upload our new episodes every Sunday at 3 p.m. on all streaming platforms.
Good night and have a great one.